one thing we talk about money mindsets. And I think one of the things is women typically, and this is a crazy thing, women weren't able to own their own bank accounts until the 70s. So that means none of our mothers grew up in a world where they could own their own bank account. That happened in our mother's lifetime. So the idea that women would suddenly, in this generation, I'd say Gen X forward, would be prepared and raised in a mindset in a society that was like, women can have lots of money, is just a fantasy world. We don't live in that world. We're still figuring out what that means. And so I think women in general are not necessarily raised to make money. At least I hope that the next generation, like the little ones now, are learning to do that. But I don't think we're necessarily as a society great at doing that. I think the predominant encouragement for women is to get a college degree, get a job, have an emergency fund. But your ultimate goal, the ultimate thing for women to do is to be a mom, be married, and have a house. And if the person listening to this is in that world, like, I'm happy for you if you're happy. But for women to not be encouraged to deal with their finances and own their money for themselves, continue to wait for Prince Charming, is not a healthy way to live life, and it's not a reliable way to live life. There are still a lot of women who I know that they've only been able to pay off their student loans, they only have health care, or they only have the lifestyle they live because their husband financially, and even if they own their own money, we still tend to encourage women to go into low-paying careers. Not a bad thing. I was going to be an elementary school teacher. I think I'd still be really happy as an elementary school teacher in a lot of ways. That's not necessarily, in the flip side, we encourage men to go after money, to be providers. And so for better or for worse, that creates a discrepancy in income. And I think that when women start to talk about owning money and making money, we're seen as selfish more quickly. I think men are too, but I think it's looked down upon a lot as seen as them being greedy instead of them being seen as smart, self-sufficient oftentimes. Or it's seen as a break away from them being potentially good partners. There are a lot of men who are intimidated by women thinking about making money and being independent. So I think that's part of it. And then I think the other part that you're talking about is women as entrepreneurs. I think that there is a way that men talk about business that women are not, I guess, raised to think about in business. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it just changes the way women approach business and work. I have a business coach that I was working with over the summer. And one thing I learned with her was for many women, especially women who are in spiritual businesses, your business is part of your spiritual journey. And that I think for men are often encouraged to just like punch their way through difficulties, and a more feminine way of responding to it, which men can take this on too. And I think there's a lot of women who do like the punch it down. So this is not like if you're doing it differently. I want to
acknowledge that nuance in general of like we've been talking about like men and women. Obviously it's very, there's no absolutes, and we're speaking in big generalities here.
Yeah. But there's a way that there was a freedom for me to be able to look at my business as when doubt comes forward. That's actually, and I do shadow work with a lot of my clients as well. That's a part of this shadow part of yourself that we tend to want to punch and push away, and instead to be able to take it in and integrate it into yourself and realize that doubt is, for me, it's so much more a part of how I was raised. It's coming up from, might be something that someone said to me in middle school that it's reminding me about, and be able to move with it, meditate through it, have a spiritual practice to work through it, turns business into not just a way to generate money, but actually something that is a part of who I am and is a part of how I am becoming a more spiritually aligned person. It's one of my tools. So my business has become a part of my spirituality. And I think as I look at, of course, I'm on a business and I'm on social media, I see advertisements for for business coaches all the time. And I'm noticing more and more women coaches using spirituality as a key component of their business work. And I think that does happen way more often for women. Guys who just noticing the difference as guys, even if they meditate, even if they have a spiritual practice that they do, they'll still have an attitude of punch the doubt monster, which is not bad. Punch him away if that's working for you. But yeah, I tend to sit with my doubt and get to know it and hang out, and we have wine together and we get to know each other a little bit.